Hello guys, this is Claudius Maximus, and talk a little bit quiet because it's kind of dark right now. My folks are here. Um, as you guys probably know, or well, whenever I get this video out, January 20th morning, so today or yesterday, it was revealed that Chapter 4 is going to be delayed again. A small delay from the 29th of January to the 12th of March. This has got some people, who are like, Glowstick, you go ahead, do your thing, what you gotta do. And other people were not so happy, and I think rightfully so. So where do we start? I believe it was back in the beginning of summer that Monsters and Mortals had been announced. Now, the idea of a multiplayer Dark Deception game had been something brought up in the community, like, oh, what if there was like a multiplayer Dark Deception game? So it was a concept that existed, but it had made some people not too happy about it. It received some backlash, as people were concerned that this project would get in the way of the unfinished Chapter 4. And, well, they had insisted that they had signed off to another company, I believe it was to... however that stuff works. They had signed off and some other company was busy making assets for them that they needed to continue Chapter 4, so making Monsters and Mortals, they had said, was a way to occupy their time so they weren't just doing nothing. And it wasn't the only other project that they were taking on. They had a couple of other projects they said they were also doing simultaneously at the same time, and there was one comment that was an angry comment that had said, what kind of a game has a crossovers planned and a spin-off planned when the main base game isn't done? Which was a fair point, I mean, it's kind of different, and to some outsiders it just seems strange to go about this. And I believe Vince actually had like some kind of angry response to that and said along the lines of if you don't like it, kid, then leave. Nobody needs your negativity. Again, I'm paraphrasing it. I believe this was deleted, and maybe there's some other old videos that are about this drama. Anyways, just to say, that there was that, but they had their reasons. They had another company busy doing that, so while I was a bit concerned at that time for them because they were taking on multiple projects. I'm just like, well, okay, if they can't work on it now, then they might as well do that. And then the end of summer comes, and then there was an announcement that once all of the wraps are complete, Chapter 4 would be ready. And so everybody was on board with that. We're like, oh, that's cool, alright, let's wait for these wraps. They existed to hype up the game and stuff, so... I mean, I personally don't like wraps all that much, but if it's something to hype up the game, then sure. The wraps come and go, and then by that time, I believe it was around October, people were patiently waiting, and then there was the announcement that Monsters and Mortals, was going to come out the 16th, and because Monsters and Mortals was coming out there, they had said that they were going to wait to release Chapter 4 to give Monsters and Mortals some breathing room. And so, okay, we were getting somewhere. And there was also a post that the Chapter 4 release date would be announced in the beginning of November. And so we were starting to dive into the territory of definitive answers, and so then, as promised in November, a release date was given for January 29th, 2021. A bit of time to wait, but people were glad there was finally a definitive release date. And so we're here at the present day. The reason being for the delay from January 29th to March 12th is because there was a big company that was offering a partnership, and apparently they had a very specific release date in mind, and because of that, they couldn't go... There was no way they would be able to make Chapter 4 in time and be able to stick to the requirements for said partnership. So they sacrificed the release date for that. So it's steadily gone from Monsters and Mortals doesn't really get in the way of Chapter 4's development to, yes, it very clearly does, and to fans, it seems as though Monsters and Mortals is taking priority over Chapter 4. This also being announced 9 days before the game was supposedly supposed to come out. It also didn't help their case that they had claimed that they are not very good at meeting up with release dates, so they had given us the impression that whatever their release date was going to be, it would only be if they were absolutely sure. So some people were rightfully angry. Some people were rightfully toxic, however you would label toxic. I'd shared my own discourse in that I really thought that Chapter 4 honestly should have come out before Monsters and Mortals, and it just shows. Twitter and YouTube, I tried to contain myself a little bit, though both of them kind of come off as a little bit angry. And I would have just kept it at that if Glowstick hadn't sadly, predictably responded by calling a lot of people toxic. They said sharing your disappointment is fine, but how they started off what they said? A couple hundred toxic people posting hatred and agreeing with each other does not represent our fan base and never will. So people in general being angry and agreeing with said anger is toxic to you? I mean, anything can be labeled as toxic, really. Anything that you don't like or makes you a little bit unhappy. But you maybe come to think that maybe that what you call toxicity was a little bit justified, or that maybe you had a poll recently that the majority of people, about 90%, had voted that they were the most excited for Dark Deception Chapter 4, which of course is a given. You know, most of the people are here because of your base game and have waited very patiently for your base game for a very long period of time. Just them being immediately defensive like this came off as arrogant and not willing to listen to the people who are upset, and intentional or not, it came off as if they think that anyone who doesn't kiss their feet to their every whim or decision is not considered part of the fan base. And that was infuriating. And so I replied about that, and I told them to piss off in that regard. A bit harsh? Maybe. But those same people who were being labeled as toxic likely were the same people that helped them get to the position that they are in today. Likely were the ones who'd supported them, bought their merch, listened to their raps, donated money, played their spin-off game, all in awaiting Chapter 4. It just really came off as disrespectful to us. Being a fan of something doesn't mean you have to idolize the people behind it. It really doesn't. And it doesn't mean that you have to support everything that they do either, or agree with everything. Honestly, if I could take it a step further from just waiting until Chapter 4 was finished to release Monsters and Mortals, maybe it would have been an even better idea to have just completed Dark Deception first, and then do Monsters and Mortals. I mean, then Dark Deception is recognized at its fullest. It being completely finished may have given it a lot more notoriety. That might have encouraged more bigger companies to want to collaborate, maybe bigger, better companies than whatever this one-time thing is. At least then you would be sticking to your word and not disappointing the fans again, and it might have been wiser in long term, but only time will tell. I'm a bit angry. Was kind of frustrated a little bit when I first found out about this news, but the way they responded really kind of just made me a little bit more irritated. I don't hate them. There's no hate in my heart for them, just anger and disappointment. You know, I remember, like, I joined this fandom around when Chapter 3 came out, and how Chapter 3 it had such, game-breaking glitches, and that was actually a problem of them rushing the game a little bit, to an extent where they didn't see those problems, I suppose. So releasing it a little bit early, and that was something they wanted to avoid again, so I can understand how long it's taken. And maybe their need to think of these people as toxic kind of comes from that, and I'm not gonna lie, there have been some people who have, maybe been a little bit obnoxious about not being happy about Chapter 4 not coming out, and not understanding that it takes time, but this isn't a situation of time in the sense that Chapter 4 is not ready yet, but that Monsters and Mortals is apparently getting in the way. At least this is what's presented to us. So again, no hate, just mad. I still love Dark Deception. It's an awesome game, and I'm looking forward to it. Whenever it's going to come out, whether it's going to be delayed again or not, I'm not entirely sure and have no reason to trust that that's going to be true. But I still like the game, and it's been a lot of fun. We got a duck plushie, Dread Ducky plushie, and my little brother, my kid brother, sleeps with it every night. I've actually had a couple of opportunities where they've retweeted my animations. I had a Pac-Man one with Murder Monkey. I had a Trigger Teddy playing the xylophone, a Reaper Nurse roller skating, and most recently a Barely Buried situational animation, like what would happen with that also got retweeted. They took it down, I believe, probably, well, what other reason? Because of my angry commentary. Am I mad about that? No. Animation had its time to be noticed, and I appreciate them for even thinking to retweet my stuff. It's their Twitter, they can do what they want to do. Anyways, thank you guys for stopping by and listening to my thoughts. If you don't feel happy about all this, please don't feel afraid to share your opinion about that. Um, if you're fine about it, that's okay. I'm not trying to incite anybody to be angry about this. If you're not, then that's okay. And I'm glad you're not mad. Anyways, thank you for stopping by again, and God bless.